and gentlemen.
Welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We got a big show this week. We have 4 new movies to review, with 2 playing in theaters, 1 available on streaming, and 1 that will be part of the Movie Wire catch-up. This week on the show, every night holds a clue, every death brings you closer to the truth. Based on the popular video game Comes Until Dawn. No law, only disorder in the Netflix original Havoc. He's back, the accountant that sees what others can't in The Accountant 2. Then finally, Oakland was hella freaky in Freaky Tales. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch a roar and a bursting of flame. The Movie Wire podcast. We just need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
A group of friends trapped in a time loop where mysterious foes are chasing and killing them in gruesome ways. They must survive until dawn to escape what's behind the killings. Based on the popular video game Comes Until Dawn.
I can't. No, please, no!
Up the road, there's a place stuck in time.
What is that?
Stuck in time.
Every time we die, we find ourselves back here again.
Stuck in time.
But the night is never the same. We're here again.
Stuck in time.
But the night is never the same. Every night something new is trying to us. We're here again. Something new is trying to us. What is that? We're here again.
If we want to survive,
Oh my god.
we have to make it until dawn.
I want out.
Until dawn.
Please let me out.
We have to make it until dawn.
Please let me out.
Until dawn. We have to make it until dawn.
They're coming.
Up the road, that's where people get into trouble.
It's been almost 10 years since the original Until Dawn game was released on PlayStation 4, and I was a fan of this game. I love a good game with a good engaging story, or stories if you will, and it only makes sense to have a game with such a gripping premise and storyline to make it into a movie. And leave it to a movie based on a video game to completely miss the mark when it comes to holding to the tradition of what made the game so special. A choose-your-own-adventure game full of characters that are engaging to play and watch even during cutscenes, with fantastic vocal performance, including Rami Malek. But, in complete fairness, Until Dawn wasn't going to be an easy movie to bring to the big screen. And even with that in mind and under consideration, it still baffled me walking out of the film to wonder how this film could have been so lazy and how Sony took its premise and did absolutely nothing with it. Now, let's just take the game out of consideration here, because the game gives the core premise as the plot driver, and that's pretty much it. So as a movie, this is like sitting through Friday the 13th if they custom and pasted scenes for almost 2 hours. But take out the first Friday the 13th, you know what, we'll take out Jason X2 out of it. At least the first one added a little bit of mystery, and at least we got to see Jason in space and Jason X. The in-between is the repetitiveness of it, and that's what we get here. It's a slasher film with just pure repetitiveness. It's a movie with uninteresting characters, and also, it's a movie of just watching uninspired kills for almost 2 fucking hours, with maybe one, just one, maybe, that's memorable and crowd-pleasing involving exploding bodies. By the time we get to the climax, even the cheap cranked up the volume booms to generate scares couldn't help me keep my eyes open. Even though the whole movie was intended to be repetitive, with a cast that's reliving the same night over and over again, if I was a character in this movie, I wouldn't be hiding, I'd be yelling, "Take me now, for the love of fucking God, put me out of my misery." Now, Until Dawn, for those that don't know the game, the basic premise here, in the movie at least, is we have Clover played by Ella Rubin, who recently lost her sister Melanie played by Maya Mitchell, who went missing a year prior in the secluded woods. Clover and a group of her friends travel up to the last known whereabouts of Melanie in hopes it will give closure to Clover, but instead they're all caught up in a time loop of survival, where as soon as they all die, they all have to do it all over again and survive until dawn. Now, it's one thing that we have that intentional repetitiveness. We have revisiting the same night over and over again. But you know what really sucks? Is that we have to relive this night over and over again with characters that are so one-dimensional, they're just mere props. I didn't care about one of these characters. I don't even remember most of their names. They are just mere cardboard characters. They're throwaway characters. And in a horror movie, that's not too uncommon. But at least we would get at least one interesting character here. Even our main character, Clover, isn't interesting. Whenever we would get a death on screen, I didn't care, because these characters are just dull. Now, I just want to state the core of my frustration. The most frustrating thing about this movie, we get a line in this film where it's stated that each and every night we have a new threat, new killers, new kills. This is what the movie promises us in a line. I'll get to other promises this movie demonstrates later in this review. But this is what really irritated me about Until Dawn, is that each and every fucking night we get the same damn crap. The same killer, the same creature, and you know what, they'll throw in a witch or something paranormal in the first couple of kills, but then it just loses its balance and gets lazy, and we get nothing but the same old shit night over night. And they just go into slasher territory with a killer with a mask and creatures night over night. I remember when Cabin in the Woods was released back in 2011, a fantastic premise on a film. It was a great film, but I remember we were teased with all these other possibilities of creatures and killers, and all I can think of when I left the theater is, that's the killer that we got, but it didn't ruin the experience for me because it always felt new, it felt fresh, there was some humor, it had some fun with what it was doing, and I am still waiting for sequels to explore those other threats in Cabin in the Woods, along with Richard Jenkins' return. God, I love that man.
How you doing?
But here's the point. If we're going to be repetitive night over night, we have to feel something fresh. We have to feel something new. There is nothing delivered or presented on the dinner table here to make it enticing to follow these characters. The characters are cardboard. The premise is just completely wasted. There is nothing to really hook the audience, except for mere hope that something is gonna happen. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Nothing happens. It never feels fresh. It never feels unique. It never feels entertaining because night over night, Until Dawn presents the same threat, the same questions, the same cliche dialogue. It isn't until we get to the last act where we are presented with another big frustration of what it teases, of what we could have gotten. And this is where the movie demonstrates how truly lazy it is. Where we have a character, and I'll leave the details out for your own discovery, that this character films each night of their death since they don't remember how they died or the creature that they encountered, so we have a character videotaping it. But again, we never see this character pull out his phone, but whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. but we get almost a montage and teases of other unique kills and nights that could have been. And I get the intent. I get the intent of what our filmmakers and writers are trying to do. They're trying to give homage to the found footage concept and trying to fit in all these subgenres of horror, and I get that, but at the same time, the movie just merely shoves it in our face saying, no, absolutely not. We are not going to be clever here on the set. We are not going to be unique. You will be happy with just a mass killer and some CGI monsters in the background and generic repetitive kills. But look at my phone. This is what you could have had if you had a better director and writers. The film was directed by Lights Out Annabelle creation and Shazam director David F. Sandberg, which has shown in horror that he misses the visual of creating a creepy or memorable vibe from the source material. In Lights Out, it had an incredibly creepy short film in which Sandberg did create the original short, which is absolutely creepy. It's his own material that he turned generic. Annabelle creation wasn't horrible in design and in the moment chills, but absolutely forgettable. Shazam, non-horror, this was more in his wheelhouse with adding at least some fun factor and entertainment value. Sandberg just can't expand on horror successfully, and this is the ultimate nail in the coffin. Because in the last act, he literally flaunts examples of scenes that could have been, but only decides to use a generic vision and repetitive formula. It's my own personal horror hell, where Sandberg does everything I hate about horror movies, which is crank up the volume with a jump scare after jump scare, with no build, and idiot characters that do one stupid action after another. These characters can't even stand on their own feet. Most of the movie, they're tripping and falling like they're intoxicated for 90 minutes. Not only that, but the movie in its dialogue tells our characters what not to do. Don't open the door. Don't let it in. Guess what? They let it in. This is stupidity. By the 30-minute mark, I pointed at the screen predicting every death within 10 seconds. But, maybe I'm being a little too hard on Sandberg, solely based on the generic history of Sandberg's horror resume, but it's not just his fault. The writing team isn't going to be let off so easy, because Until Dawn feels like our writers Gary Doberman and Blair Butler just cut and pasted audio lines from the game and never even played the game. Our writers truly don't know how to take this premise and saying anything any different night over night. For example, let me just go ahead and read the extent of the lines. And this might be a spoiler alert for all of you, but I don't really fucking care. Here is the lines of the movie. What's going on? We have to get out of here. We're not leaving you. We have to get out of here. We died. We have to get out of here. We died again. We have to get out of here. It's a new killer every night. Shut the fuck up. No, there's not. It's the same damn killer every fucking night. We have to get out of here. And that's it in the movie. I hope I didn't spoil anything for anybody. Until Dawn is generic, it's cliche, it's forgettable, but most of all, a frustrating horror movie that if I didn't go back and check, I would have thought that this would have been a PG-13 movie because it plays as cheap scares that are mainly meant for teenagers. This is a movie that literally had a blank canvas of ideas, and it literally shows us its cards of what it could have been by the end of the movie. I can understand bad movies and where they could go wrong during production. Until Dawn, I will never understand what went wrong, nor forgive because it insults us in pure laziness, from the writing to the direction to pure mere vision. If there is a sequel, I will be the first to propose a title. Wake me until dawn. I'm giving Until Dawn 1 star.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
This summer, no one is safe, including the audience that paid to see it in Hell of a Summer. That's campy, silly, but the cast is the only ones in on the joke before the audience, receiving 2 stars. Anthony Hopkins plays a cat and mouse game with Bill Skarsgård in a locked luxury vehicle in Locked, which was in the moment entertaining until the climax where given the choose fine actors, we should have gotten more, receiving 2.5 stars. The future favors the brave in Captain America Brave New World, and the brave was the ones that bought a ticket to yet another meh Marvel movie, receiving 2 stars. Human Traffickers Beware, it's another Jason Statham movie that we all know what's gonna happen. In A Working Man, here's a hint. He beats up and kills a lot of people. A Working Man received 2 stars. Today's the day in a movie that teases suspense but ends up being an emotional reflection, and I was fine with it, but others may not seem it my way. In The Woman in the Yard, receiving 2.5 stars. Porky Pig and Daffy Duck are Earth's only hope in their first big screen team-up in The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie that was loony as it was touching and entertaining, receiving 3.5 stars. He's Dying to Save Mankind and Mickey 17 that consistently battles itself for substance versus spectacle, receiving 2.5 stars. When the odds are unbelievable, show the world you're unbreakable in The Unbreakable Boy that actually shows vulnerabilities and humanity, and that makes this a hopeful and happy tearjerker, receiving 3 stars. Everyone dies, and that's fucked up in The Monkey, which I wish that said it's fucked up more in this movie, receiving 2.5 stars. Meet Nathan Kane, he can't feel pain in Novocaine, that after we get the premise, the film doesn't do anything with it but becomes just a mere novelty, receiving 2 stars. A Little Bear goes a long way, and that's the truth. In Paddington in Peru, even though innocent enough, this bear isn't challenged enough to do something different, receiving 2.5 stars. Espionage is deadly, marriage can be deadlier. And again, ain't that the truth? In Black Babe, which was a stylish mystery thriller and so far one of the best movies of the year, receiving 3.5 stars. And finally, Don't Forget to Breathe, from utter boredom in Last Breath, that received 2 stars. You can check out those reviews of my previous episodes, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, before we get into the last set of reviews, there is a podcast that I religiously listen to each and every week, and that's with Dan over at the Casting Views podcast. Not only do I listen to it, but I do tend to stop by from time to time each and every month to visit for our pilot views episode. Make sure you hit subscribe, follow. The link to the Casting Views podcast will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Dan over at Casting Views now.
Fancy taking a humorous trip down a random topic each week? You do? Well, you're in luck. Casting Views, presented by me, Dan, brings you just that. With topics from the world of technology, entertainment, and everyday life, there's bound to be a topic that's going to inform and amuse. Catch Casting Views every Sunday on all listening platforms now.
Christian Wolf applies his brilliant mind and illegal methods to reconstruct the unsolved puzzle of a Treasury chief's murder in The Accountant 2.
I spent years looking for you. Do you not miss me because of me, or is it your condition? I'm just me.
Welcome to the Boise Romance Festival.
How are you?
I just love accountants.
That's a coincidence.
I like camping.
So do I.
I thought I saw an Airstream in one of your photos.
Yes, that's my home. That's where I live.
Oh, permanently?
Well, as long as I'm alive.
Oh.
Eventually, this body will be a corpse.
What do you mean you reverse engineered our algorithm?
By tokenizing your questions in an embedding matrix and generating a predictive model for the most effective answers, which I provided.
Good morning, Dreamboat. Could we discuss business now?
Go.
Do you like puzzles, Mr. Wolf? Ray King has been murdered. I need your help to finish the job he started.
Well, how does this all connect?
Most brains see a pattern that's familiar. My brain doesn't work that way.
Braxton? It's me, your brother. Can you be in California in 24 hours?
But just call it. How have you been? Merry Christmas. Happy birthday.
But it's not your birthday. Birthday's November 11th.
Unbelievable.
Was your brother up to speed on the case?
So it's been a minute.
Braxton, thank you for coming. I'm really glad you're here.
Did she tell you to say that?
Yeah. Are you happy, Braxton?
Why wouldn't I be happy?
You're transient, you have no significant other, or...
Do what I want when I want it. Have gun, will travel. I mean, yeah. I think we gotta go get drunk. some dancing. Here in cowboy country, we don't mess with another man's girl.
You're from Glendale, Gerald.
It's okay. My brother wasn't having a good time tonight, but now he will.
Is there anything in this world better than punching somebody in the face who's got it coming? No.
Yes. Shut the front door. You!
Hey!
We go over the plan again?
Plan?
Braxton, thank you. Are you ready?
Yeah. What are you doing?
I'm applying sunscreen when twice as likely to develop melanoma as adults.
Can I get a little bit of this?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
It's been 9 years since our accountant mass savant Christian Wolf, played by Ben Affleck, uncovered a conspiracy and kicked some ass. And now comes a sequel I thought would never come, should have come, or even needed to come. Now, the first accountant was a pleasant surprise to me. It took a premise of an autistic boy that never stereotyped, never used a disability, and never gave us that Superman syndrome, where he's a normal character that all of a sudden rips open his shirt and becomes a hero. It uses his personal traits, it uses his personality to really go after a prime message, a prime threat. The original accountant was effective because it had build. It not only had origins of Christian Wolf, but it laid seedlings of origins of struggle with our other characters. All the ingredients worked. It had smarts, it had action, it had characters we wanted to follow. And that's due in part to the good casting in the original and the smart screenplay. Now, The Accountant 2 brings back some familiar faces and names, including both writer and director of the original, director Gavin O'Connor and writers Bill DeBoek, along with returning characters, of course, Ben Affleck as Christian, his brother Braxton, played by Jeff Bernthal, J.K. Simmons as Ray King, and of course, Detective Mary Beth, played by Cynthia Ade Robinson, which, even with some returning characters, some briefer than another, which is disappointing because it follows the same tropes of what we've gotten from, say, the Bad Boys legendary sequels. It adds some familiar faces briefly to just give us that nostalgic feeling. But The Accountant 2 still manages to at least be an entertaining, overblown standard sequel. After 9 years of being apart, we can see our cast actually have some fun on screen, and our writer Bill DeBoek has some fun with the dialogue. Now, it doesn't go full silly as we have seen from action sequels of the past, such as Stakeout versus Another Stakeout, but it does have some subtle fun with itself. But the difference here from action sequels past, to truly understand the fun and humor, you'll have to watch the original to get the most out of it. Unlike some action sequels of the past, like, the Lethal Weapon movies, for example, where you can walk in and still have some full extent of fun. Our Ben Affleck character, who we learn about in the first film from kid to adult, we don't get a lot of reminders here, and some may just walk into this movie, given the title, and just think he's a hired gun, nicknamed The Accountant, which is a disservice to the original movie and a disservice to the character. The whole character is the premise of the movie, and they should have built upon that. The Accountant 2 takes place 8 years, pretty close to the original release of the original, and as we heard a line delivered from the end of the first movie where Affleck and Berthal's characters as brothers tend to have an emotional rekindling where they plan to meet up after a week. It was a sweet ending to the original movie. Now, 8 years later, and they have barely spoken. Our writer DeBoek would have been wise to maybe make this a continuation of the original movie set right after. If we're going to ignore some of the clarity and revisits from the first movie, then a continuation would have maybe encouraged those to at least revisit the first film and have amplified the enjoyment of it by getting the, oh, now I get it. But here, as it stands, there's nothing that really makes me think that people are going to want to revisit the original, unless they just want to have some understanding to it. Now, with all that said, The Accountant 2 is entertaining. It's a well-paced film, but it takes a while to get the juices flowing, and it doesn't really start getting going, or I didn't really care about it until we get a great scene between our two brothers, Braxton and Christian, sitting on a trailer roof, asking each other if they're happy. It is one of the best scenes and well-written scenes of the movie, and it seems that this pivotal moment is the starting point of building some heart and the bridge between our two brothers. But this is where I have a problem with that, is that it takes way too long to give us this moment of buy-in where we see these two actually having good conversation, good banter of dialogue. And after this point, I was emotionally invested into these two characters. I cared about their outcome. I cared about the actions of these two, but it was far too late in the movie. Now, given at some point we need to have a good arc between our characters, but everything prior to this interaction, the chemistry just feels like cardboard. And I can see the intent of ensuring that these two brothers that haven't seen each other in 8 years, but when they both agree to tackle an investigation together and team up, we don't get a lot of substance other than they're just purely brothers, especially after the ending of the first film. There was a lot from me of give me more emotion, give me the why, give me the question, what our brothers are both thinking. I wanted more of this in the beginning. I wanted more than this and just shoot, shoot, bang, bang in the first half of the film. Now, the forte in this film is Jon Bernthal's performance is vastly different than what we saw in the first film. And it's an energetic performance, it's entertaining, but it also outshines Ben Affleck's character, who seems to pop in and out of character here. It's not one of Affleck's best performances, where he approaches this portrayal as almost a forced role. In The First Accountant, there was an intensity to his performance, where when he has a certain gleam about his reactions, when he can't solve something or when he does solve a puzzle, there was certain body reaction, there was a certain grin on his face, a brightness of his eyes, if you will. So there was something to the original performance that isn't present here. Affleck's performance here is just linear, a straight performance, and given that it's been almost 8 years, the idea or the intent is that it might be justified. But the movie doesn't give us enough substance to make it known. It just becomes merely an assumption. The Accountant 2, make no mistake, it will appease fans. It's entertaining for the most part. The most important part to a buddy action flick is the chemistry, and Affleck and Bernthal do have that, but we really don't get bought in until the last half of the movie with their chemistry. What The Accountant 2 sets itself back from is the feeling of a continuation versus an unneeded sequel. I was entertained in the moment, but in reflection, for a movie that I was surprised to have a sequel after 9 years, I would have hoped that our filmmakers and our writers had a smarter script up their sleeves to make it more relevant and justified. If you were a fan of the original, you will be entertained, but there will be a lingering disappointment of wanting more. I'm giving The Accountant 2 2.5 stars. After a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through the criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son, unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that entangles the entire city in the Netflix original Havoc.
I just came from a crime scene. 9 bodies.
I make one phone call. You and your friends go down for life.
What brings you boys here? We didn't want to miss out on all the fun.
This is my town. And don't forget, I know what you did.
You have no idea what I did.
Now, I don't even know why I still subscribe to Netflix. I think at this point I'm paying a monthly fee for pure hope. Hope that Netflix comes out with something that doesn't make me look over at my phone that's face down on the couch next to me and say, "Baby, why are you sitting so far away? Turn around and let me stare at you." As I scrolled through films to locate Havoc, it was an even deeper reminder why I just need to call it what it is and just cut ties with Netflix. To get to Havoc, I had to scroll through Kraven the Hunter, countless SpongeBob movies they've pumped out in the last couple of years, Kung Fu Panda 4, Electric State, Atlas, and you know what? If you want a list of top movies in the last few years that I hated, you will probably find it on Netflix. And when it comes to the new Netflix original Havoc, that one borders on that list. This plays like a video game, and just like Until Dawn, it is a complete yawn. This time around, Netflix claims another victim to a movie for streaming that is completely forgettable, that Netflix is banking on people falling asleep during. Havoc stars Tom Hardy as Walker, who plays a stereotypical detective who has family issues, mental issues, had a traumatizing event, etc., etc. Doesn't really fucking matter. He is put in the middle of a web of conflict, including with other cops, gangs, betrayal, etc., etc. It doesn't really fucking matter. These are just setups to pure action scenes, and the film tries to do too much in between these action scenes in terms of story. But you can't have a story when a movie goes for action and style over substance, and that style dominates the screen 90% of the time. It becomes mentally exhausting. Now, Havoc was written and directed by Gareth Evans, who wrote and directed Raid Redemption and The Raid 2. There is no question that Evans can direct action. Right from the first 10 or so minutes of Havoc, his pure style is the hook with the camera shots that follow during a high-speed car chase. But Evans' script doesn't warrant the continuous style, because it takes away from some complex side stories going on between the action scenes. And by the time we get to the last half hour, his style, along with his attempt at creating multiple conflicts, becomes dizzy and mentally exhausting, where we can appreciate his eye for action and giving into the moment to convince an audience by the time the credits roll that this is something emotional and fun. But what I think the real problem here is that Evans had a better vision of what was in his head versus the final result. I can respect the style of Havoc, I can respect the attempt at mixture of complexity, but except for a couple of films, this one proves that Evans hasn't flexed his well-rounded action direction film muscles yet. The holistic frustration I have with Havoc, I took more as a frustration with our writer-director Evans, where we can see the skill that he has, but he just doesn't show the will to flex over telling a story without the crutch of action. What actually hurts this film is the way it flows, is our main character Walker, again played by Tom Hardy. And it's not that it's a horrible performance by Hardy, it's just a Tom Hardy performance. He's the gruff cop, the action star that delivers his lines as such. We don't get any kind of separation from any other role he's ever done. But there are better performances in this film that I'll point out in just a minute. Havoc tries to point out the stakes during the runtime, but we really don't feel the stakes until Evan blatantly points it out towards the end of the movie, towards the climax, involving our politician Lawrence Beaumont, played by Forrest Whitaker, and his estranged son Charlie, played by Justin Cornwell. These two have fantastic performances, but they are limited to screen time to ensure that Evan's vision of an action spectacle is at the forefront. Havoc is yet another Netflix film that will be lost in the sea of films while trying to find something to watch. Even though with a great cast and some solid performances, this again is another wasted movie of talent that we should have gotten something better. But this leaves a bigger question that has been lingering for a couple years. Do streaming services even care about the quality versus quantity of films and recognizable stars in those films? Or even more so, do the actors even care if this is a payday? And I get it, it's a paycheck, it's a payday, but at the same time, we have to protect the arts. And if this is what we're getting, assembly line crap, this isn't helping their career other than an instant gratification of a paycheck. The answer should be clear from the last year of films on streaming, especially Netflix. Netflix doesn't care about the arts, they just care about the payday. And this is just a prime example in the numerous examples we can get from Netflix that they just want you to just press play and they don't care the engagement or anything that happens afterwards. Scroll your phones, be distracted, they don't fucking care. Just press play. That should be Netflix's new slogan. Havoc is a movie that tries to do way too much without compromising scenes of style versus substance. My Netflix watch list has turned into a white noise list for me to listen to so I can fall asleep. And Havoc will now be on that list. I'm giving Havoc 1.5 stars.
Theaters to streaming seems too short, so that can only mean one thing. It's time for the movie Wire Catch.
interconnected story set in 1987 Oakland, California will tell the story about the love of music, movies, people, places, and memories beyond our knowable universe. It's a freaky shame this didn't last longer in theaters in Freaky Tales.
The underdog believes he can do the impossible. Defeat the bully, sell enough mixtapes to get out of the hood. But I can say with certainty, this underdog has seen his last day.
Yo, wait, hold up. We gotta take it from the top.
We got one more job for you. Sleepy Floyd, Warriors point guard. His house is gonna be empty on game night. He's got a vault full of ancient Asian artifacts.
Yesterday was the last job. I did it. I'm done.
You're done when we say you're done.
Fuck you.
What happened next has been debated over the years. But this is the tale as I know it to be.
I found it!
Did you see that? Yeah. That's so rad.
You don't expect it. Hi, I'm Sleepy Floyd.
Floyd's out there slicing people up with a sword.
Can you repeat that?
Wasn't every day a story like this hit the town.
There's too many of them.
That's bullshit. We fight.
But for those who lived through it, it became the stuff of legends.
What happened here? You fucked with the wrong warrior.
Now, Freaky Tales tells a story of 4 separate stories that by the end get intertwined to a conclusion. From pushing back on Nazi skinheads, rap battles, basketball, to Tom Hanks delivering his top 5 most inspirational films of all time in a video store to Pedro Pascal. Freaky Tales is a movie from the first 30 minutes we can tell was destined for cult status. Now, it's no surprise that Freaky Tales didn't last long in theaters with its limited marketing and this type of movie that I wish it could have gone up against big blockbuster films like Snow White and Minecraft. But in a way, I feel our writer and directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, the duo behind Captain Marvel and indie gems like Half Nelson, knew this and was transparent on what they wanted this movie to be. And that's the biggest hook for me on this movie of how transparent and how executed the vision is. This film pays homage to the raw energy of the 80s. Now again, Freaky Tales is set against the backdrop of 1987 Oakland, California. It intertwines 4 distinct narratives, each pulsating with its own unique rhythm, yet they tie together by a mysterious green glow that hints at something otherworldly that I'll get into in just a second. Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, we can see and feel that they know they wanted to make a film that paid homage to not just movies with a tone of the 80s, but cult movies, and we can feel it resonate on screen from the very opening act. And when you go in with clear intent and vision of tone, pacing, and delivery that the viewer can take in and feel from the first 3 minutes, then the stories and performances we see on screen will hit harder in feeling and fun factor. Boden and Fleck nail this here. Boden and Fleck create a visual style that is on purpose. Its intent is clear. It's deliberate. It's a deliberate nod to the VHS era grindhouse films that inspired it. Each story being told, or chapter I should say, employs a distinct style of technique to reflect its genre. The punk segment utilizes handheld cameras and saturated colors to evoke a sense of urgency and chaos. We have a rap battle that is shot with a sleek style visual that mirrors the polished production of music videos. Then we have Clint's story boy, again played by Pedro Pascal. His story adopts a darker, more subdued color palette to kind of symbolize a moral obligation of his character. And then we have the final chapter surrounding a basketball game that employs vibrant colors, a comic book-like atmosphere. It's more kind of the fun factor of color palette. Now, Freaky Tales at times has an odd look. There's no denying that it adds to the fun factor. I had a lot of fun with this film, to the point the very next day I had a craving and urge to watch it again, but with a bigger group. I invited a group of friends over for a watch party, and there's nothing like seeing a group cheer on a group of underdogs go up against a group of skinheads from the 80s. Freaky Tales is a cinematic love letter to the 80s and 80s films, and the fans of cult films, capturing its energetic spirit with clear intent and vision of our filmmakers. Even though it can go over the top at times, it earns its right to be over the top, because with each and every performance and story, we crescendo into wanting to follow where Freaky Tales is going to take us. Now, even with the fun factor that conquers the screen, the movie isn't without faults. The movie surrounds its green glow and introduces us to hints even in the very beginning of the film. But as each story moves along, we get small tie-ins to it, but it never really makes it clear on what it's trying to convey. When it comes to the balance of everything else in this movie that it executes, but it never really makes it clear on what it's trying to convey. When it comes to the balance of everything else in the movie, all the stories seem to flow, the performances match the vision of the movie. Everything else works. But when we have moments of this green glow, the story seems to hit a speed bump and give us a mental distraction of the fun factor. And we start to ask ourselves, what should we be thinking? What is this? It doesn't throw off the movie, but it does take us out of the flow of the fun factor, thinking we should be picking up on something more. This movie's trying to tell us more, but what is it? And that does add to a distraction of this movie and a little bit of the fun factor. Bowden and Fleck have crafted a film that is both a nostalgic homage and a fresh take on the anthology format, blending elements of punk, hip-hop, crime drama, and fantasy into a cohesive and entertaining whole. These are the movies that we don't get enough of in theaters. It's inventive storytelling. It has fantastic visuals. Freaky Tales stands out as a testament to the enduring power of the underdog stories and the rich cultural tapestry of the 80s. Freaky Tales has no right to be as good as it is, but it's freaky how it knows what it is and how it sticks to its guns on staying true to itself. It's a freaky good time because it's so freaking engaging. I'm giving Freaky Tales a freaky 3.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.